So welcome everybody. Thank you for attending and being volunteers on the South Slocan Water Services Community Advisory Committee. Start off with a round of introductions. Maybe hop off and go first.
Well, I think everybody knows me, but I'll do the introduction. I'm the regional director for Area H, which runs from South Slocan all the way up to almost within 8 kilometers of us. It's a humongous area, and South Slocan Village is a great village. A little crowded, but it's great.
A little opinionated.
Everybody in Area H is opinionated, Kathy, don't worry.
That's true.
I'm Alex Wilcox, I'm the Water Operations Manager.
I'm Uli Wolf, I'm the General Manager of Environmental Services, and this is part of.
Chris Ganem, I'm the Water Utility Services Manager.
Kathy Loxam, I live in South Slocan.
I'm the chair of the committee, also committee.
Well, it doesn't really, not this, no. No, I'm just a committee member.
Okay. Michael was next door. Here's my nephew who just moved in from 3292 South Slocan Road. So he's a Wood, not very boy. I'm Peter Wood, up 3302 Woodage Road.
And I'm Ian McGovern. I live on Murray Road.
Thanks. We see we've got Mandy online. Thank you, Mandy Chitska.
Hi, thank you.
We've got an observer as well. I don't know if the observer wants to introduce themselves.
Who's the observer?
Okay. Well, with that, let's maybe just launch into the agenda here. We'll move on to item number 2, which is staff reports. Turn it over to Alex to approve the items on this list.
Sure, thank you, Chris. So this year we had 2 major distribution system leaks that were repaired. One was on the raw water intake line and the other one was on, I want to get the name right. So it was on Piano 8, which is on the South Slocan Village Road, in the 3,300 area. So those 2 distribution system leaks were repaired. Of course, we completed the annual flushing and valve exercising, and also the annual dam cleaning and inspection. We located the highway water main crossing and identified it, so dug it out, marked it, identified it, did some cammering on it to confirm the integrity of the casing pipe that it's in. And another just comment of interest is that the 1 micron absolute filter consumption has increased once again. Is there any questions on those before I move on?
Okay, so how did the dam look? The
Dam's
inspection?
fine.
Yeah, okay. And also, when you did the inspected the integrity of the water main? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was good?
No.
No.
The casing is not something that we can reuse.
Okay,
It wouldn't be in anyone's best interest to put a new water main through that existing casing.
okay,
Also, it is too short for the length of the pipe that is now the width of the prism of the highway. So it would need to be extended at a point. We can get into that
okay.
more down the road. But yeah, that both the water main and that casing are in poor condition. That's a 4-inch iron pipe. And the blocking on it is, you can see that there's some parts of the casing are indented, rusted. The blockings of wood, so it's not even proper pipe restraints inside the casing. So
What do you mean by blocking?
it's the pipe restraint, so that kind of holds the pipe in place inside of the casing.
Okay.
The first part of it's wood. We couldn't really get too far into the casing. What we did is cammering as far as we could, just to confirm that it's a very poor quality the integrity is compromised, we need to replace that, both the pipe and the casing, we can't reuse it.
So you were going to have put in by the contractor a second pipe underneath the road to carry that pipe for us.
So that was the original project for the overhead pass, that whole replacement project did include MOT at that time installing a new casing pipe.
Yeah.
So it was confirmed that that new casing pipe is not where the as-bills or record drawings are to show it is. So it essentially, we don't have a casing pipe to utilize.
Yeah.
For that section of water main replacement. Sorry, I was just got picked up.
So we are still awaiting response from Ministry of Transportation on our request. What exactly happened there and if they have any more records.
Right, because you guys went to and Ministry of Transportation and asked to have that pipe put through on our behalf. When the new overpass setup was being done,
Correct.
and now we find our old one, which they didn't even extend when they added the extra fill on the end of it, from what I understand.
Correct.
So, apart from the fact that our thing is about 30 or 40 years old, nevertheless, we did try to get provision to put a new one through, and we can't. Who's going to pay for the drilling under the highway of a new pipe to carry our thing?
At this point, we are at fact finding. So Ministry of Transportation need to confirm to us if they did or did not place a new one. Suspicion is they did not. And then we ask the why and what we do from there in regards to resolve the issue. So initially, we need them to give us in writing to say we did not. And that's what we're waiting for.
But this is how many years now?
2017.
2017?
Yeah. So we did have requested two casing pipes, one on the end of now I can't remember the name of the road. So there is one casing pipe that is installed on the west side of the dam in so it would be on off the end of Murray Road. So
Not far from the tunnel there.
yeah, well, yes, yeah, exactly, not far
Like
from
you
it.
can't crawl through it.
So
Like you
there
crawl through
is.
something.
There is a casing pipe that was installed there, from Murray Road to join up with South Slocan Station Road.
Okay,
That is there.
that's good.
Yeah, we've confirmed that that is there. What we hadn't heard back from the ministry is on the second casing pipe that would cross, parallel to South Slocan Village Road. That would connect then down to South Slocan Station Road on the east side.
Yeah.
So we're still waiting to hear back.
There's a toilets in the park now, there's where the line is at the moment. Right, there's a water line that runs by there's a toilet down in the park, the lowest bit of the down end of the down in end of the tunnel. And further back from there towards Nelson is the toilets, the public toilets for the park. And in the field behind them, a little closer to the Cooney River, is a pipe which at some point when they were doing the job leaked and we had to go back in and dig around in there. And that runs all the way to the dam in and the houses near the dam in, that's the supply line for them. And then the other end goes towards the old station house, the old station master house and the old railway station in South Slocan. Which now feeds, what's the family's name? The architect.
Cover architect,
Cover architect. Yeah,
I
I
can't.
forgot his name for the minute.
Graham?
They get their water from that line that runs that way, plus the house that they own on the hill.
So,
There was some talk a year ago.
yes, and that was the intention, was to replace the line in the new, from the existing 4-inch, iron pipe underneath the highway and replace that with a new pipe in the new casing, However, that wasn't completed this year. Because we are still waiting for a response from MOT to,
Of the carrier.
Yeah.
Or no.
so that brings us to the next point, cap projects. So no capital projects were completed this year, but we did identify what is actually in the ground and where that crossing of the highway is. So all that has been confirmed because that wasn't identified and marked previously, and we did do the cameron of the casing to check out the integrity. So all that is in place, and you know, that's good information that we have in terms of where the infrastructure actually is and the condition of it. So
So I do have a question, if I may, have you got current mapping of the water system in South Slocan? Because Peterwood knows where everything is. So have you updated your mapping to reflect what's out there? Have you sat down with Peter and have him go through and say, yes, this is there, this is there, this is there? Because sometimes our mapping is not really that accurate.
our mapping is based off of the mapping that we've gotten from South Slocan. So everything on our web map is based off of what we see from South Slocan.
And it was pretty good what we received at
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah, I've seen even the hand-drawn maps and our GIS maps look quite, inclusive of all that historic information, so.
And if you find new information or incorrect information, then we update it.
Yeah, so just to follow up on that, has Peter had a chance to review that mapping to confirm that it is accurate?
There's some mapping that came from the community.
Based off of the hand-drawn and, you know, multiple.
It would be nice to see the synthesis.
Yeah, so what I would suggest is maybe somebody sit down with Peter
I get it.
and review the mapping that you currently have. Even though you've got it from the community, there were some changes made.
So
And if anybody is aware of the changes, there will be only two people, Gary Deminican and Peter Wood. While they're still around and available to do that, they might drop off the committee and go for a vacation in Hawaii or somewhere. But I would appreciate if you know, somebody from staff
Fair
could sit
enough.
down with him and review the mapping.
fair enough. And my memory starts to have the odd hole here, but 15 years ago, did we not on several occasions for different reasons go through that mapping together with members?
I don't think so. The
No.
reason I have the question is, you know, you weren't sure about how the second house belongs to the architect up on the rocky bluff. You weren't sure how it was fed. There's a fire hydrant there, and that fire hydrant was how the water gets down to that first house. The station master's house down by the railway track. That gets along the edge of the railway track, and when we were talking earlier this year ago or so, it didn't seem to me that you understood what the score is, because there must be an 8-inch and about 4-inch main anyway. The service is the hydrant on the bluff.
Yeah, but that information, what you just said, we are aware of, yeah, and we do know that's how that house is serviced. That's the information that I received from our operators, so my understanding is they understand how those two houses are fed. And yes, then there's the lower line that runs parallel to the tracks that feed the two other properties at the east end of it, Station Road.
East End Station.
Yeah, so the one house is fed off of that orange line that feeds the hydrant, and then it runs down his driveway to the house, so we are aware of that, yes.
Stacy is the name,
Say again.
Stacy.
Stacy, that's right. Rob Stacy, thank you.
All right.
The Stacy house. Yeah, okay.
I mean, we can certainly, I'm happy to forward you, a copy of what our web map shows, and you can review it.
Yeah, I can do that, and I recall last year when questions came up about the accuracy of our mapping, I did a bit of a dive and looked at what we had versus some of the hand-drawn maps on file, or the maps that we got at hand system, and confirmed that things looked accurate. So, but this is something we can do with a map for.
Question only would be, is it okay in digital format? You're comfortable reviewing it in digital format?
Oh, I can print it off, I can print one off.
I said, I don't want it, so they don't.
I'll print one off and
Okay, yeah, just wanted to.
I might even have one in my office, but it might be
Good to have one.
a little, I can get one printed off. I can get these those.
Okay,
So you'll set up something with Jerry and you?
let's have a look at this.
Yeah, and maybe there might be other people who want to just observe,
Just to see what's the score.
familiarize ourselves,
Yeah.
yeah. So that would be wonderful.
One of the things that-
Thank you, Walter.
Yeah, thanks. One of these other question last year was the location of the water line in the field below Stansfield, in the corner of the highway and the South Canterbury Road takeoff. And under current circumstances, the line follows the edge of the road fill and down into that hole where you recently dumped some sand and did some exploring with those valves down there. Have those valves been serviced? Was there any repairs, any leaking? Because that was a concern that you had a year ago too.
Yes, and so that will be a part of my conversation on future capital.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just working down the line here. So if there's any more questions on the operation and maintenance portion of it, I can move to the future capital.
Could I ask one more question,
Sure.
please? You mentioned a couple of breaks, and I didn't understand where they had been.
So one was on the raw water intake line on the west side. It's,
From the reservoir down to the treatment plant?
yes,
Okay, so there's a break in that line.
there was a break in that line. I think that's the best way Louise described it.
Is it up on, the Lincoln's Road there, that he
No,
has?
it's like,
I'll go to the treatment plant where you
It's closer to the reservoir.
closer to the reservoir.
closer to the reservoir.
So before it straight lines, east, comes down from the reservoir and it's in that section.
Gotcha, okay, I understand that. And the other one?
Was on South Slocan Village Road in the 3300 area. So we call it Piano 8.
What that would be,
3300 is the whole.
over 33.
So it was
333
between
as well.
3357 and 336.
Just past Yaden Road.
No, it was on South Slocan Village Road, that parallels, because this line is actually on private property.
Which side of the road is this on?
It's on the north side.
The uphill side.
Yeah.
Hillside.
So behind Jim Halliday's place, perhaps, not Halliday, Jim.
It was between 3357 and 3361.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
you can look that
And
up.
that is a 4-inch cast iron.
Orange mate, yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
think that
it's
must
not
be
the first
that
break on it.
It must be behind the knees or somewhere.
Ideally, we would place that, because this line is now showing a history of breaks on it, so it is a line that will need to be replaced. Unfortunately, it's about 230 meters long. We put it in the road right of way, ideally to get it off of private property, because there has since been infrastructure placed in and around where we would need to dig that line up. So that particular section of road along South Slocan Village Road, as I mentioned, is about 220 to 230 meters of road right of way that would need to be utilized to move that 4-inch cast iron pipe into the road right of way and get it off of private property.
Right of way is tricky.
That has actually got a lot of road right of way right there. We
Yeah.
did look at it. There's quite a bit of room in the road, right? So you can see right there, there's a good chunk of road right of way there.
Oh, and this is where we had sheds and structures, proximity to the existing one.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know the main behind, it's terrible for names these days. There's Jim's place, and then there's Sadie Hammond's old place, which is on the driveway. There's a big driveway and two houses.
A double
on the side,
driveway.
on the other way. And the Jim's place is the last one on that side of the road before you drop across the road to the church and beyond. And there's three houses. There's Radine's place, Radine Toad's place. I don't know the rest of the numbers to Radine's. And then there's Sadie's place, which is now owned by, can't remember names these days. I'm just an 85-year-old head is not working too well. Anyway, I think you're up in the back of there, and there's be a place where the main, the 4-inch main is within 2 or 3 feet, maybe 4, of the corner of the building, right where it goes past their foundation. I don't know how Buddy Hammond got to do that, but he did. And we had a break between that house and the next one, about a year or so ago. I was there helping Gary with his machine digging in the holes that clear out the mucking wanted up.
That's a couple of years ago, right?
It might have been just 2 years ago, yeah.
This sounds like a similar spot.
It does sound like. it's a
Yeah,
very
so
similar
that,
spot.
again, that line is showing a history of breaks now and is failing, so
Yeah.
ideally, again, that is an expensive project because it is 230 meters of new pipe that needs to be placed in the road right of way.
Yeah. So that's Williams' house, okay, so sometime Williams.
And just clearly to state, if I have a memory like you at your age, I'm happy.
Just a question here, like when you replaced the 200 and somewhat meters and it's that old cast iron pipe, what do you replace it with?
Well, in this case, we would likely replace it with 6-inch C900 PVC. Yeah. Because it is fed by, in this particular case, it's fed by down the other way. It is also fed by the line that comes down from the water treatment facility, which is also a 6-inch HDPE line.
Yeah.
So it would be this would be a good chunk of that distribution system replaced that moves toward where it intersects on the line going north up to the water treatment facility. So it would be a good candidate for replacing. It is going to be an expensive project. We're putting a linear meter cost, and again, it really just depends on the ground and any sort of like obstructions, but we're putting a linear meter cost of about $800. Yeah.
My God.
And so would that be, because you're putting in a new line, you just don't need the old one in the ground?
We would just abandon
Run a
it,
new line?
yeah. Because it's cast iron, we could leave it in the ground, it's not asbestos cement, there's no future health hazard associated with it. We would just cap and abandon it.
And the intent is as line gets replaced, we'll be upgraded to the 6-inch?
That is the intent, yeah. And there's a couple of sections where it doesn't necessarily make sense to replace it with 6-inch, but for the most part, anything close to that transmission line coming down from the water treatment facility, we can replace those lines with 6-inch, that would be ideal.
There's a fire hydrant opposite the old church, on the other side of the road, the old Anglican church, which is now a music studio, etc. Is that where you're going to run the new 6-inch main?
No, that doesn't quite, the 230 meters doesn't quite get us there. It gets us to and again, this is something that we would have to plan. It would incorporate borrowing. So, this is a conversation. It is not currently in the 5-year plan. I'm just mentioning it to the community because this is something that we should be planning for. It is showing, great history and is a good candidate for replacement. This would take us down to hydrant 7, which is not the hydrant you're thinking of. I know which one you're thinking of, but this is at about the 3292 on South Slocan.
Yeah, that's the one right opposite.
That's opposite you.
Yeah, so you essentially you'd go along the edge of the road there from that hydrant.
So that would go northeast up into
Towards,
the other, there's, a standpipe at just across from 3370. So in and around, it would tie into that line coming across to service 3370
so I don't know what's that.
or 3380. I think there's 2 houses there, so you might be familiar with 3380, 3370.
Is there any way you could put your screen up on the big one?
I can have it,
It's not easy for me to do it, I mean, yeah. But again, this is not something that we have in the 5-year plan. I'm just noting it to the community because we did discuss 2 main breaks, and this is one of the main breaks that happened this year. And it's something we should consider for replacement.
Yeah.
So to have the discussion, you absolutely have to have 2 lines paralleling that road.
That's great, yeah, because that could be something that we could then abandon that other one and just pull lines across. Yeah.
See what, if you can service, different service model than we currently have. But right now you have one above the highway and one below or highway.
Sounds good.
And the question is at the cost that we're facing, if there's more cost effective way of delivering water to these properties.
Yeah, it looks like there's really only about six properties being serviced, so we could, through that new 6-inch line, pull servicing across like underneath the road, whether it be drilling.
Problem is it's being rock often.
Yeah.
Drilling underneath isn't an easy one to do, if at all. So we'll have a closer look once we get there.
I sure like to get a feeling from where you would put the new line, the new 6-inch line, when you get right to it. That would feed, it's got to feed the hydrant, but it may not go all the way to the hydrant because of the 4-inch line that goes through it right now. But the hydrant opposite the Anglican church and church hall, there's a hydrant there, right above the road. And it's just on the edge of Jim property. And then the line, it comes down around back of you to that hydrant. And then that hydrant sends the line across the road, across the village road, services the church. And all the way down to the other side of the main highway to the railway crossing Brad Jackson's place and his neighbour, the Master Chucks. Again, there must be street numbers. And then he comes all the way down the opposite side of the village road. So it cheats off there. One goes towards Nelson, the one comes down this way towards to my place. And the end of that line is where we had a break about 3 years ago. Darren and the Kirsten place, right on the very edge of the road, and the ground is shifting and things. That's part of the reason for the brace, I'm sure.
There's a lot more detail that needs to be applied to before we even think about this project, and of course, there's going to be a design component to it, so.
Yeah, I would suggest that it's a separate meeting by itself to have that discussion.
I'm sorry we're holding that for.
No, that is fine. Again, this is
But
talking
do
about.
want to prevent what happened the last time around. We had a project. We discussed it to death until we didn't have a project in there. We still have the $50,000 of community works in the service. So ideally, you want to come quicker to a solution than a project and project delivery. And so as a result, we haven't even changed the valves that you mentioned earlier down there. So like I said, try to hope we all can be a bit more effective and come to the conclusion what we are going to do. We all know we have needs, but were you indicating, Peter, in what you said, ideally having a second hydrant that can be certified as serviced with a 6-inch line? Is that what you were getting at?
It's so nice. The hydrant was certified.
That's certainly being a consideration if we look at the delivery. The cost difference between the 4 and 6-inch is small enough that it may be worthwhile.
It's just about relaying it. That's where the issue comes. If you want to relocate it, you're going to be into drilling and blasting to make a hole in the hillside, a tunnel, a tube, a trench in the hillside to accommodate this rock everywhere on that uphill side of the road. It's all village road. It's all rock. Already we're up behind several houses with the existing 4-inch main. It would be nice if it was a 6-inch main. But to relocate it, I think you're going to be into quite a lot of extra.
Relocating the hydrant, you say?
Relocating the board.
Relocating, relocating the new 6-inch main into a place in the right of way, as opposed to.
Let us let us do a little bit of conceptualizing the options that we have and then have a separate meeting and talking about that. But
It's years ahead anyway.
yeah, there's a lot of options we can look at and a lot of considerations in this. But yeah, I would say at some point we start doing a conceptual design and
I am cognizant of that if there's a section of 4-inch main between the 6-inch at one end and the 6-inch at the other end, we're not going to get certification anyway for the hydrant.
That's correct, but if we are replacing a section that has a break history already, that we know is failing, it would be best to replace it with 6-inch.
Oh, yeah.
And resolve those leaks, and then at least we're moving toward eventually, yes, there's gonna be a gap of 4-inch, but that will be another, again, future project. But at least we've resolved that section that has the break history and, you know, and gotten it off of private property so that we're not coming across a similar scenario where there's buildings in the way. You know, there's infrastructure now around our water main because there was never a proper statutory right of way implemented.
I know it's a problem.
Yeah.
So if I may have a suggestion here, we're talking about capital projects, so over $200,000, et cetera. So what I'm doing is I've got community works funds and I've got community development funds, and I'm allocating them this year.
Okay.
So basically by the end of the year, I'll have zero balance in any one of my funds that are there. So what would help, and this is why I mentioned sitting down with Peter, taking a look what they have there, where you need replacements, and you don't necessarily have to put it in a 5-year plan, but at least let me know what kind of funds would be required to complete the projects within the next year, or at least have me allocate the fund for the project for the future.
Yeah, okay, we can certainly do that.
And that would help me, because I do have substantial funds, and I've got, I've got Campbell Field, and I've got Crestova Park that I'm trying to develop, and, other issues, and actually, the park that's in South Slocan that's trying to develop, and I want to allocate those funds and get that work done. On the books.
It's probably something we have to do anyhow more and more, that the community works plan, funds are going to be planned out further in the future, because in the future we will compete with I anticipate all departments that have assets as we complete the asset management planning for the whole organization. And I would think there's a lot of draw on these funds. You have quite a bit. There will be a lot of draw on the funds, and likely long-term commitment for these funds is probably where we go to.
That's exactly what I'm getting at. Like right now, I've got a substantial amount, and UBCM feedback and talking to you or whatever is spend them or lose them. Basically, is what they're saying, or they'll restrict future funding until they're spent. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to allocate them, and I'll probably be having a conversation with yourself and Joe Shiriko and other people that are involved in where they can go. So it would help me how much funds I can get. There's the Presto Improvement District that's looking for funds since they got their planning grant, rejected by the province, that they're putting it off in the future. So there's other improvement districts that are
You will receive a report as a board member in January that outlines our future difficulties to supply community works funds for external organization.
Yeah, well, and that not necessarily community works funds for the improvement. I've got some community developments, but so I want to make sure that I allocate my funds accordingly with the regulations that we do have.
Okay.
So this is where I'm kind of subjected to sitting down with Peter while he's there, where all the breaks where the potential possibility of other future breaks are, and let's get some capital projects, at least funds allocated for the capital projects. When did that capital projects happen will depend on staff here to promote them. I know I'm not part of this committee, but I figured I'd get my 2 bits worth.
We sure might have some of the money you got available to save the house going up, our prices going up.
Okay, so I'm gonna move on to future capital projects then, that are planned and are in the 5-year financial plan. So we are going to replace one of the filter housings. So there's 3 sand filter housings. We're gonna replace one of the filter housings media with a new type of media that was piloted previously under my predecessor's management of the system. So that is going to, sorry, just one minute. It is not a huge cost, but I think we can speak more about the actual funds allocated to that, but it is in hopes that we can increase the filtering of turbidity before it reaches the 1 micron absolutes to reduce the amount of consumables on those 1 micron absolutes, as they're quite expensive. If we have good success with this media replacement, then we'll 1 by 1 replace each one of the sand filters.
What kind of volume of medium are you talking about?
I'm not entirely sure. I think they're 26 or 32 inch housings, so it would be my guess, probably like anywhere between 1 to 3 cubic feet. I'm not entirely sure.
One to 3 cubic feet.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure again. I would have to double check on that. Yeah.
Not a lot anyway, in terms of medium. They're not replacing the housing, you're just gonna take the.
Just the media, yeah.
Medium.
We would probably have to also replace the gravel bed that the media sits on, so I would, there's an associated cost with that. I don't know the exact volume of
Well, so much, actually some gravel at the bottom of that container, and then you have the medium on top of it.
That's correct.
Okay, interesting stuff. Okay.
For 2026, we're planning a dam assessment and so this would be a professional dam assessment. Our current water operations supervisor does the dam assessment alongside, but this would be a professional dam assessment. And then any sort of potential upgrades that come out of that dam assessment, that's the thing we look at 2026. We are also going to have a standby booster pump installed in the facility, just as a redundant pump, as we replaced one is aging, and then so we'll have a third in the event that that aging pump fails. And then the distribution system upgrades. So, we discussed in length about the potential future 230 meters of line that we'd like to replace, but for next year, what we will do is we will replace that valve farm or valve cluster that we've dug up, and we'll replace the line going north of that to where the C900 that's identified in the web map, where it joins to that, because we do know that it's not C900 right down to the valve farm. Then what we'll do is, in preparation for replacing that line that crosses the highway, once we get some direction and resolution with how to approach that in terms of the new casing, we'll just replace what we can to the orange line. So we did identify that there's a bit of a jog that needs to be replaced with the C900 6-inch pipe. So
C900 being a standard
PVC.
for a PVC pipe, that is typically the standard that is being used in installation for water
Yeah,
systems.
is that the stuff that uses welds to fasten the bits together?
Sorry,
They have there's a welding system where they actually weld the pipes together.
that's HDPE.
That's a different kind.
This is the
This is a PVC pipe, just like the other PVC pipe that has the rubber seals that are sticks that are.
It's a valve spigot. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, gaskets.
I had a question about the dam assessment. I mean, is this I seem to remember that there was some legal requirement or liability every so often we have to get a big assessment done. Is that what's happening here?
That's correct, yes.
And that's the $18,000?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And although our determination was that it's fine, we still legally are required?
We are not specialists, right? We
Right,
have a
okay.
our operators have a relatively simplistic training in inspecting these types of dams, but that is not accepted as an engineering type of
Right.
assessment, and that's what we need. If you remember going back, we were once in a situation where they wanted the
Year?
real assessments, where you're talking close to $100,000 for the assessment. We were able to convince the regulator to do this in I don't know what the terms are for the different assessments, but this type of assessment, which is a lot cheaper than a full-blown assessment of the dam. That has to do with the risk classification that we were able to convince them to put this dam into.
Because of downstream danger potential. So, and this is not something that's eligible for Walter's funds, I take it.
The assessment, likely not. Typically, community works are limited to capital projects or engineering work directly associated with the capital. So engineering for a water line replacement could be, but a general assessment piece for an existing asset, likely not. We can check with the UBCM that regulates or what they accept, they audit us, and but my guess would be not.
Okay. I mean, maybe if it found that it needed upgrades, then maybe we could, but,
Yes, yes.
right. Okay.
So the $18,000 for this assessment is just essentially the engineering company that's going to do the assessment. No destructive testing, just penetrating type testing. You know, we'll do it. It's a lot of money. Even so.
That is what we were quoted.
Like I said, if you recall, so probably 10 years back now, we were in a situation where they expected us to do $100,000 assessment, which would have been a lot more in depth. But that was based on the risk classification for the dam.
Yeah.
The problem is it has a certain height that normally would put them into a higher risk classification. We could convince them based on the materials, the structure, and the relatively moderate volume behind it to lower the risk classification, and that allows us to do this type of assessment, which is a lot cheaper than the full one. But since Mount Holly dam failure, the requirements for dam assessments have gone significantly up.
Says they shall tar everything with the same blessed brush. This is not an earth-filled dam as the Mount Holly thing was. This is a concrete dam, a bedrock on both sides, above a channel which is 20 feet deep and all the way down to the highway.
We own as regional district a mine tailings dam, and I don't even want to start telling you what. Sorry, you are in the you're in the west. In the central west sub-region, what cost we have seen and continue to see based on owning this tailings facility. It's outrageous.
We, as the regional district, bought that Canex mine site as a or whatever.
There were a few owners in between, yes.
So how often does this assessment have to happen?
I think it's once every 10 years.
Okay, because I
I'm not
think,
entirely sure, don't
Right.
quote me on that, but I do know that we're overdue.
right, I seem to remember that they were wanting more frequency as well, and somehow backed away from that.
Yeah, again, that had to do with the risk classification,
okay.
and we were able to get this dam put into.
Well, if we have to do it, we have to do it, I guess.
Sorry, so here it is. Oh, there it is. So, yes, so I just wanted to, sorry, I misspoke, the media replacements, that'll be closer to 5 cubic feet, 3 to 5 cubic feet, not 1 to 3, so that means that because it is quite large, I would guess it's closer to 5 cubic feet.
Still not very big.
Sorry, what's that question?
I say 5 cubic feet is still not a very big volume.
No, these are
Material.
small
Yeah.
filter housings in that building. You have seen it before.
Yeah, no, I'm just, I saw how much does this new medium cost? for that much volume of medium.
It's more about well, it is about the media. It's not that expensive, but we also have to take out all the media that's currently in there and the bedding and replace this also. And there's some plumbing going to be involved with that. So it's the media itself is not super expensive, but it's the process of trying to replace it without having to replace the housing, because the housing itself is probably, I would guess, between $10,000 and $15,000.
It's essentially a very specialized sand.
Yeah,
It's got some sort of coating on it that's
I can imagine.
that does a better job of reducing condensation. So that is all I have for future capital. If there's no questions, we can move on to the draft financial plan.
I'll pull the draft financial plan up online. And we will just work from the top down. So at the top, you'll see your system information and rates. For the 5-year outlook from 2026 to 2030, we're looking at a 5% increase annually in rates. The next part of our rates are the parcel tax income. So if you're familiar with this, we have parcel tax broken out between customers who paid that treatment loan up front. Well, that's the 12 customers, and then the 42 customers who did not pay up front. And we're looking at a 0% increase in parcel taxes in that 5-year outlook. As we move down, we see our revenue portion down here that includes the summary parcel tax revenue, as well as the user fee income. Transfer from reserves in here as well. Works, and then our prior year surplus is also listed on that line.
So in 2026, you're doing a 40,000 transfer from reserves,
That's correct.
and what's your contribution to reserves?
We're getting to that.
I'll move down, we'll walk through all that. Operating expenses, and we hand it over to Alex to walk through.
Certainly, so we are fairly on track for salaries. Salaries for next year will be based off of year-end's estimate plus 2.5 increase. Nothing too substantial to report out other than operating supplies. Again, we're on track. That might be a bit higher since we did just order some new replacement micron absolutes. So the year-end estimate might be slightly higher, but we based next year's off of that. Chemicals, again, that year-end estimate might be a bit higher, but we based it off of that estimate plus the increase CPI. Utilities, we have increased 2026 budget by 3.45, which is the utility suppliers rate increase. And you'll see the consulting fees, that 18,000 now has been moved down to the dam assessment upgrades capital project instead of the consulting fees. We've also allocated going back up to the top of the salaries, I failed to mention that we've also allocated 2 years worth of leak detection. We do need to do more extensive leak detection in the system to determine where monies would be best spent. And then of course in 2026, some capital project assist under our lead operator salary. Is there any questions on that portion of the budget?
I'm curious about the rental. What's that?
That was for the camera.
Oh, okay. Just,
It was, yeah, it was a line that we had budgeted for. We don't usually rent things, but
I
it
was
was that,
curious.
yeah,
Yeah, okay,
that was for the camera.
Much cheaper to rent that than to go and get it.
right.
Any more questions on that? And if not, then I'll move down to the capital expenses portion. So you'll see that media replacement, we've allocated about 10,000 to that. Down assessment and upgrades, we've already touched on, and that will be the 18,000. Standby booster pump, based off of the one we had recently replaced, plus a tiny bit of inflation, we estimated at 12,000. And the distribution system upgrade at 60,000, and again, that's the valve farm replacement, and then replacing sections of line that lead to and from that valve farm. And that we will be able to complete in 2026. Any questions on that?
So you have the community funds already
Yes, Walter, we took what you generously offered us last year and moved it to 2026.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that application.
I'll have to check.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for the heads up.
Yeah, so just one other question here is out of the 10,000, 18,000 and 12,000, which one would not qualify for community works?
The 18 is what's the assessment that we said we don't know, but likely not. That's the dam assessment. And everything else would qualify.
Okay. Not that I'm gonna give you any money, I just for my information purposes, when I start allocating my funds.
Come on.
Any more questions on those portions of the budget? And I'll hand it back over to Chris.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, move down to the non-operating expenses. Here you'll see our interest payments and principal payments on the loan. Director Papa, the contribution for reserve is identified in this line, so that's the just move down on the line here. So in 2026, contributing 103,000 with smaller contributions out to 2030. I'll go down to the bottom of the sheet later and just flag our identified recommended contributions and how they match up as well. We've also gotten our internal transfers and cost allocations here. Got our general admin fee, again, the IT fees, the transfer project management, which we don't have flagged in terms of transfers. This would be for capital project typically. And then our transfer to utility services.
There will be a line item added here, not big line item, but there will be a line item added for asset management planning. So what's happening right now is that the organization overall is starting, as I already mentioned, to do overall asset management planning for the whole organization. We have a person leading that project for us. It involves software purchase and implementation with consultant support. The whole organization will contribute, or every department that has assets, I should say, associated with the amount of assets they have. So there will be a line item here, and if I would have to guess, probably about in the $1,000 range that's going to be there. That would reduce your contribution to reserves by that $1,000.
So just a question, like I'm looking at your reserves are gradually increasing, you know, and I think you probably answered, but maybe I wasn't listening. I was looking, some of the reserves will be used for asset management, or they're gonna be a separate line contribution for asset management going forward.
Like I said, will be a line item in the non-operating expenses for that $1,000 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You can expect that to go for a few years on. It will not affect the reserves otherwise.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll balance the budget by reducing reserves for this year.
Yeah.
The AMP contribution.
Yeah. What's different in the reserves is, and I think Chris may have mentioned that, is that we have now new line item and the reserve, in the revenue section, under line 44,020, investment income and interest. That is the interest earned on the reserves, but that's now coming in as general revenue instead of being directly put into your reserves as it was before. That's auditor requirement that we had to meet, that we show it as an actual revenue in our books. And so it's just a different flow of money. Before we showed it directly down in the reserves, going directly to reserves. Now it comes in as a revenue and forms essentially part of the contribution to reserves that we are showing, which is for next year, the $103,000. It is extraordinarily large next year because we have a very large surplus. The surplus has a couple of reasons. I don't want to explain already. Chris, if I repeat something, stop me. So the reserve is based on the $18,000 for the dam assessment consulting fees that was not spent, and the rest is real surplus based on a large surplus going into that year and operating costs being well below the anticipated expenses.
So it was about 30,000 less, right? Operating expenses? Am I reading that right?
Yeah, that including the $18,000 for
That
that
includes
consulting
the-
assessment.
Oh, okay.
Those are large contributions to reserves going through from 2026 onwards. I think just coming out of our revenues for our water users.
If we look at your statement there, so yeah, $103,000 contribution to reserve in 2026.
Yeah.
Our minimum recommended contribution to reserve is identified by the asset management plan that we currently have as $102,000 essentially. So, we're just there. And in the years after 2027 up to the 2030, we are, nowhere near our recommended minimum level of contributing to reserve.
As soon as that
So-
surplus goes away, you are back in the $47,000 level of contribution to reserves.
That's assuming that we don't change the rates to the customers, the water users.
That is, but I mean, even with, significant rate increases, we're not gonna catch up. So I mean, we've got well-planned capital projects and well-planned, reserve contributions to move this forward.
What we're trying to get at, Peter?
I was just curious that, in the past, we had a struggle to make any contributions to the reserve. And this last year, we managed, if I'm reading this right, we managed to put in 15,500, give or take.
Yeah, and he said it was a bit more of a special situation too that reduced it further. There was as well, transfer to utility services was higher than normal in that year. But the $40,000 to $50,000 range is where you are now. It is half of what is recommended, but you have made a huge step towards sustainability since we started these massive increases, admittedly.
Because we've had 7% in the past, or 10%.
I'm trying to remember.
I think we had 10% and 7%. Yeah.
What are we at now? What's the plan for next year?
Well, we're at 7% this year, and then it's 5% carrying on.
And 5% with static partial tax. So the partial tax is actually stays at the same level. So overall, it's probably in the 4 and a little bit % overall revenue increase. And that matched with about 2.4 to 2.5% inflation. So the effective increase is just under 2%.
And the parcel tax will go away soon.
No,
Wasn't it?
No, sorry, what,
Well, I'm thinking the people who paid upfront.
sorry, okay, you mean the
so the-
parcel tax isn't all your loan. Parcel, a portion of it is your loan. So
Right.
you're speaking about the people that did not upfront the capital cost and continue
Mhm.
to pay off that loan, you're right. But that was a 25-year loan and taken out about 15 years ago, so you have about 10 more
Another
years
10 years, okay,
in that payoff of that one loan.
right,
And the second loan, I think, is carried by all, if I recall right. So, but they are both in and around 10 years. They all are associated with your reservoir and treatment plant construction at the time. And was a 25-year loan at that time that was taken.
okay.
I'll move down to, the 59,500 account column, which is transferred to other services. Here you'll see our fleet, transfers as well as our operator agreement.
And so why is the operator admin double what the estimate was?
As we are playing catch up here, we've got a couple of years of operator admin calculations to do. So this is a placeholder, best guess placeholder.
2024, we did that.
Oh,
We
okay.
should have, so it's a double for catch up for 2 years, so then it goes back to the more normal levels of 6,000, around
Okay.
6,000. Everybody's still clear, though we have new participants. So operator admin, it is part of the operations cost. When our operators are not in the field, so when they are in the field, they enter the time and it shows up in the salaries and benefits section that you have about. When they are either in the office, when they are on call, when they are sick, when they are in training, when they're in meetings, when they are working on operating procedures in the office, when they are working on IH, reporting all of these tasks in the office or not in the office, but not in the field, that's entered into a different account. We have to account for that operator time and we redistribute that back out to the 19 water systems or 18 water systems that we have. And that comes back in form of that operator admin. It initially lands in the service A103, that's an allocation service as we call it. So it goes into that service and then we reallocate it back out to all water services. So it's essentially an operator time that we're paying for.
That's the fairest allocation, fairest way to distribute that.
That's relative, we didn't used to do that, eh? I mean, 10 years ago?
We always,
Did it? Okay,
we
we did.
always did it. Sorry, you have a lot of history with the system. If you go 15 years back,
Okay,
it was actually the general taxpayer paying a lot of your administrative costs.
okay, there was a point at which it's shifted.
Exactly, at some point, we recognized that it's not fair that
Right,
the general taxpayer pays for it, and that's when these costs all came out, the woodworks that you didn't see before.
right.
Moving down to the bottom of the sheet, you'll see your reserve summary here. As we mentioned, investment income used to be a line item down here. It's been moved up into the revenue section. So here you'll see our reserve balances, contributions, and then the withdrawals. Right at the bottom, you'll see our 25-year and 100-year recommended asset management plan annual contributions to reserve. So that's your asset management plan for the South Slocan water system, being updated, and then informing you what you need to put away annually in reserves to be able to keep your system sustainably managed from an asset management perspective. So replacing your aging assets as they fail and based on that service life that we assume for each asset.
you can expect, which you don't see right now, you only see capital projects in 2026, but as we proceed with the plan, we talked about several lines in need, that one of these capital projects at some point shows up in the future years. And that would obviously then draw on the reserves that we are currently showing. And now you are at a point where you can contribute to line replacement projects. But we have to have that discussion where and how much and in what form. So more discussion we had on that.
We're in great shape compared to where we were though.
Yes.
Yeah, very different from what it looked like 10 years ago.
Yeah. We have a lot of unhappy people paying those bills.
No doubt. Who would not?
Yeah.
This when you say reserves, you're talking about money being taken on taxes from the users.
On the users, yeah, contribute.
It's like above an operating cost of the unit, it's being basically stuck in a bank account.
Exactly, you see it in the line item contribution to
Yeah.
reserves, so it goes into a dedicated reserve for your service. Nobody can touch that, it's not the.
And that's for our big projects like this, the 230 meter
Asset
line.
replacement.
Okay, that's good, no, it's sensible to do this, otherwise you're paying backwards.
That's exactly the problem we had 15 years ago. Most of our water systems were used to very low rates. Some of them didn't have treatment and were forced to have treatment. So from not having reserves, not paying the administrative cost, not having treatment and needing to have treatment, there's a massive increase that we saw on the water system. We have an additional driver in other systems, that's asbestos pipe replacement. So where you used to be by far the most expensive system, you don't hold that record any longer. So we have now systems that, because of asbestos pipe replacement, exceed the rates that you are seeing, and we don't have a real good solution to it. And so we are struggling on some of these. Some of these are now starting to exceed the $3,000 level per year, and yeah, it's a big problem. But again, asbestos pipe is a problem we need to solve within the next 5 to 10 years, and there's no real way around it.
Problem with asbestos pipe is it's shedding asbestos pipe.
No, it's not really the issue. The issue is that it has a very so the anticipated useful life is from here to about 10 more years. And when it starts to disintegrate or gets weaker, it loses its structural integrity entirely relatively quickly. Meaning you can't do like with a steel pipe where you say, I put a clamp on, and only if I'm at a point where I have to put 10 clamps a year on, I need to get rid of this thing. There you get to a point where you can't put a clamp on it because it doesn't have a structural integrity. So we need to proactively replace these lines before it gets to work, and otherwise you lose supply entirely. So it's a bit of a guessing game, and with the amount of asbestos pipe and the amount of systems with asbestos pipe, we know we can't do it just in a couple of years. We need to proactively start replacing these systems with, typically PVC pipe.
I imagine disposal is gonna be tricky too.
Yeah.
The disposal-
It's not like an iron pipe. you
And
just
then
leave it in
we've got
ground.
actually
Yeah,
a policy
but-
for disposing of, like, disposal is expensive,
Yeah.
and we historically saw about $500 linear meter disposal.
The removal is expensive, the disposal is actually
Oh.
relatively small
Oh,
portion
shoot.
of the cost.
Okay, yeah.
And another thing, but just not to do with this specifically, but if we ever spend more, it just goes on our taxes. We can never run them. So if we have a
Okay.
big expense.
Yeah.
I mean, so we have to,
Then you
we're
use it.
responsible one way or the other, then our fees would just go up because we can't legally run in the bed.
Right.
So that's something that I think a lot of water, I'm not saying you, but a lot of people don't understand that, like we really.
It's exactly that, and I mean, we So then we go and have to do what we have to do and come to you and say, so you have to vote on a long-term loan. You can vote it down,
But then our taxes, I mean, we have to pay one way or
but
the other.
then we come and say, okay, it's an emergency. We are doing a short-term loan. Now, instead of paying it over 25 years, the $1 million or whatever it is, you're paying it over 5 years. And then, right, you'll see $20,000 a customer per year. So that's what the discussion was, what the members in this group understand, and where they said we want to be proactive and contribute to the solution.
So that's where the reserve was.
Correct.
To try and avoid the need for loans
Correct,
as much as possible.
correct.
Obviously, if it's $1 million, well, we don't have that.
We have one in our back pocket, moving into the front pocket.
And so the group continued to support step-by-step increases to the rates in order to get to that, closer to that sustainable level. That's still in progress, but at least as you pointed out, we got from 15% increase to 5% increase, so whatever that is.
I'm so grateful to the founders of our system when they brought in from England the cast iron 4-inch mains that we currently have. And the reason they did that was during the Blitz in the war, they found that those cast iron pipes in Britain were in incredibly good condition inside, and Ivor and people at the time, Ivor Jones and the other founders of our system, said that's something like we should have, and I'm so glad they didn't use asbestos as well.
And asbestos wasn't around at the time when you installed that steel.
When did asbestos come in as a potential water pipe?
No, 50s, 60s.
Yeah, late 50s, early 60s, into the early 70s. Yeah, so it was about a 10-15 year span where it was the standard pipe for many regions. I mean,
Yeah, some communities didn't full bore.
Yeah.
Regina got, mostly, I guess, asbestos concrete and
Yeah.
water.
it's sometimes from region to region for whatever reason different. So if you go down to the States, you have a lot more steel pipes on the East Coast and a lot more plastic pipe and other types of pipe on the Central and West Coast.
I had one question that goes back to the minutes from before, that there was reference to the question to include information regarding the committee and members in the annual mail out, and it was referred back to staff to respond regarding privacy concerns. And that's something that we have asked about.
Oh, contact information.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's something that we have asked to, I mean, we got told the regional district couldn't supply us with people's information, and we had to accept that. We sort of developed our own. But I think we thought it would be useful for when members get their mail out to say, we have a water advisory committee and these are the people, just to share that information.
So we missed that.
It just says that it was gonna go to staff and nothing I don't know if anything happened. It's not recorded.
Chris, can you
Yeah, I'll
And
include that
if
in?
that's coming up is soon, I mean, in a few months, it would, I mean, am I speaking out of turn, or is that something that we thought would be useful?
Yeah.
And if we agree to it, I don't know about the privacy concerns, I mean,
I'll consult our privacy person.
and we strongly like to have that.
No, I mean, I think you said it, but we mentioned in the letter to ask residents to contact you or the director
Uh-huh.
to be part of that group, right? I don't think we will ever be able to hand out
Right,
addresses or names of properties. The only way we could do that is if we write every one of them and they provide us with consent to do so. But I think that's a lot more convoluted as then directly contacting one of you if you want that, or and your director.
yeah, because we're trying to compile, we've got most people, but it would be really handy for them to just see that reminder that there is a structure in place, that this committee and who the people are, and perhaps something saying we endeavor to provide information to people and that we need their contact information. So if they want to provide us contact us to be part of that process. I'm sure you
So
can word it
all
well.
that information is public information, except your contact information. So as a matter of fact, the 6 people that were on the community, South Canton, were just reappointed at the last
Right.
board meeting for a 3-year term. And that is public information. That was a public meeting. The appointments were done in a public meeting. It's public information. But what you're getting at is we're not allowed to put your address or your phone number or your email in that information, just your name. So obviously, if you live in South Slocan Village, people should, residents there know who you are or whatever, and then they can source their own information as far as contact information is. So I guess what you're trying to say is when they send out your bills, put that information, their community advisory water system.
Members.
The committee is, and list the members that are on there. And then that way they know who to contact.
But you can't actually say contact Kathy at my number or email.
No,
You're not
no,
allowed to do that.
no, that's
Just their name. Okay.
private information, just the names.
Okay, well, whatever we can do.
Well, that will work quite well, because we're a pretty close knit community, we had a nice social.
Yeah, actually, Chris, sorry, I misunderstood that context here a little bit initially. So Chris is right. We can talk to our privacy person in the office. If you consent, we may be able to do that, but let's check that. I thought first you were looking for the names and addresses of people in the service area. So
We
we
went
mean
that
the other way around to publicize your
yeah.
name or address and okay, we'll find out more
Yeah.
what we are allowed to do with consent in that regard.
Yeah, okay, and maybe, because I don't know whether everybody consents to that or not. I mean, I do, but, anyway, no, we tried the other way and got shot down and we've accepted that.
Whoever volunteers, don't come to me and say, no, I get all the complaints about the rates and.
We'll do that anyway.
And that would be interesting to know when you mentioned, Dan as a regional district, because this is what we're doing. This is not the only community advisory committee that I'm trying to establish in the Slocan Valley. There'll be others. Can we put in their contact information? I know I checked with Angela when I submit the names, I submit the contact information to her, but that does not go on the board.
Yeah, we certainly can't do it just because we want to. It is a minimum, we would need the consent of the person. And I don't know if I would wanna do it in general terms. There's some communities that are very, have their conflicts within the community, right? And I wouldn't suggest to a CSC member, publicizing it. Some other communities are so small that everybody knows everyone anyhow, because they have only 10 connections of that, so it's a bit different story, but we'll find out what we are allowed to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, and keep in mind too, I mean, we put the annual, pamphlets mail out on the website as well, so if we were to do that, we've got more information potentially. Much wider audience, so I'll confirm what we can do and I'll
Okay,
circle back. and-
yeah.
Part of the problem is too, you send that information once out, and that person does no longer wanna do it now. That forces us to send something out to every community member saying no longer. A new person is, or there is no longer a person, right? So you're starting a communication, you can't just cut it off, that whoever volunteers needs to be aware of that. Once the information is out there, it's almost like Facebook or whatever, once it's out there, you can't just recall that information easily.
But for a year, and then you send out a new one every year. It could be updated once a year.
Yeah, so at some point when Walter calls us and says, would you be willing to serve again for another 3-year term? At the same time, we could give consent that we publish our names with the billing or whatever
Well,
to the clients.
yeah, well, it would be part of the parcel,
Yeah.
part of the process thing, but I haven't.
Yeah, well, once you get that information, let me know whether
Another
that I can disclose that information to the public.
Yeah, I'll have to show you, sure. With that, we'll adjourn the meeting. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you all.
Thank you.
I'm just
Especially
letting
making
everybody
the
know,
effort to come
I'm
here.
not part of this committee at all. I'm here because, I'm the director. So the committee is based on people that I appoint to the committee.
I have another meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody online.
Thank you.
Can I have another speaker?
Of course.